everyone, it's Sharonda from Payorwait, and today I'm going to be reviewing and recapping Power Book 2 Ghost, Season 3, Episode 4, The Land of Opportunity. So going into Effie, because she was really on her boss-ish this episode, I was like, I see you, boo, okay? Even though she had a couple of demons that have been plaguing her, as she really wants to tell Tariq, you know, what has happened with Lauren, that she was responsible for, and she had to do what she felt like was the right thing to protect everyone involved. But in the midst of it, they have their business right now, the coffee business that Tariq came up with. Business is booming. She's overseeing the entire project. She was getting the old dude together. She was like, hey, I'm not going to tell you again, okay? You shorten our customers, and that's what we don't do because we're going to give that good customer service, okay? I was like, okay, Effie, like, you better let them know, but don't get too mad because it looked like y'all need an extra couple of workers because the demand is too high right now. So you might not want to be going in as hard as you were doing, but it is what it is. I was loving her boss energy that she was giving me. But we see that Kane ends up confronting Effie about him knowing that it wasn't Brayden who took care of Lauren, that it was actually her. And so now she's concerned because she confronts Brayden, like, why did you tell him? And he was like, it wasn't me. I wasn't the reason that he found out. So she basically says, like, hey, the way that you can help me is basically by just not saying anything to Tariq. Sometimes you just have to do what needs to be done, and that's what I did to protect everyone, and that's how we're just going to leave it. I'm not going to tell him. So we see throughout the course of the episode, there's these moments, you know, of them getting closer together. You know, we see when Tariq asks her, you know, maybe I should just come to Cali with you after I get everything settled with my trust and go to Stanford. So he's like thinking of her, you know, family is really important to Tariq, and so he sees her in, you know, as a part of his family, which is new for... I almost said Orphan Annie. Oh, I know I'm going to go to hell. I'm so sorry, Lord. But they said in the last episode. But it's important to her, for someone who didn't have family to depend on, that she actually has somebody who's looking out for her best interest. So I find it really interesting to see them getting closer together, because once he actually finds out, I don't think he's going to be okay with the fact that she was the one who supposedly offed Lauren. So I also do believe that, you know, we see this back and forth between her and Kane, where she's concerned that Kane is going to tell somebody what happened and that it's going to get back to Tariq. Now, I think that Kane does believe that he's going to hold true to, like, his word, that he's not going to say anything, even though I sense there's, like, really great tension between Kane and Effie. Like, I low-key feel like they could be good together. I've never been fully sold on Tariq and Effie, but it's just something about them that just, I know Kane want her bad. Like, he down bad, but she ain't having it. But I do feel as though that once he realizes that Lauren is actually alive, then he's probably going to turn on Effie and Brayden and tell Tariq what actually happened. I feel like that's how it's going to play out. It's kind of what everything is leading up to, but we'll see. Also, too, Kane didn't have to tell that girl beat it like that when he was talking to the girl and then she texted him, you know, towards the end of the episode. I was like, why are you so disrespectful to people? But let's talk about Jenny, okay? Jenny from the block, she you know, she making some headway in her little Rico case. So we see that her and Sax, they're out for drinks or dinner, whatever. And so Sax ends up showing Jenny the picture that he took in last week's episode of Monet, Tariq, and Davis. So they're trying to implicate Davis in this Rico case, and he's saying that in order to gain his trust, he needs to help get his brother off and not get him arrested as well, because he knows that he's the actual person who committed the crime. So Jenny thinks that this is a very risky move. She doesn't feel like he would be willing to cooperate, but he's just like, hey, you know, leave it to me. But their conversation is interrupted as she gets a phone call from Blanca. And she steps away from the table, and then Sax realizes her other phone is ringing. And so, of course, Sax is so disrespectful, because if it's one thing that you don't do, you never go through a woman's purse. He went all up through her purse, grabbed the phone, took a screenshot, took a picture of the phone, and put it back in her bag. So I was just like, Sax is so sneaky. Like, he's just sneaky for his own good. But the reason why he was being so sneaky, because he's thinking that Jenny up here getting her back blown out by somebody else rather than him, because he probably loved the girl, okay? But we see that when Sax said, I'm sorry, is your job giving out a whole phone? I said, a whole phone? Sax, what you know about a whole phone? What you know about a whole phone, Sax? Let me know what you know about a whole phone, okay? So we see that she says, hey ho, it's for a CI, okay? Why you always be doing all this extra stuff, all right? It's for a CI. And so she ends up introducing Sax and Blanca to each other. You know, Blanca, let's just say, like, Blanca still got beef with him, okay? I don't think she's going to let go of it anytime soon because he ruined her last case. And so she was just like, hey, you're not going to ruin this for me this time. So I don't care what y'all got going on. I don't trust you, all right? So they end up meeting one another, but then she gets her phone ringing again. And of course, it's Lauren who's been blowing her up. So she goes to see Lauren. She still hasn't told Sax or Blanca about Lauren and the fact that she is actually alive. But we see that she ends up showing Lauren the picture of Tariq and Effie. I was like, who would have known this relationship would cause so much beef? This why you can't be a player, Tariq? Because now you got Diana out here just doing crazy stuff, and you finna have Lauren. Y'all see how quick she was snitching? Oh, this hoe got a girlfriend already? Oh, well, let me tell you everything. He was with Monet. He was always scared. I was just like, Lauren, that's all it took to get you to corroborate. Like, you was just protecting Tariq a couple episodes ago, but now, since you see that he with Effie, now you just go, okay, do you, boo? Do you, boo? So she just snitched it all the way up. So we see that she then gave her Diana's name. She told them about the spot where they was hiding the drugs, doing the drops for the course correct. I was just like, wow, you just gave a whole little enterprise that's happening in Stansfield. So we see that later in the episode, Blanca actually ends up finding out about the gun deal that we'll talk about a little bit later that Drew came up with Gordo in order to help, you know, take care of these guns that now Noma wants them to sell. So we do realize that one of the gunmen did survive, and that was Blanca's CI. So I don't know what's going to happen with that, but clearly I think the police are about to be hot on their trail. But I do want to talk about, actually, let me talk about Drew a little bit, because Drew got a little boo thing. We finally got rid of Everett. I'm sorry if y'all were Everett friends, but Everett just get on my nerves because he's just never supportive of what Drew has going on. So just like I called it, Drew is going to be knocking boots with Gordo, Uncle Frank's son, which I just realized they call him Gordo. I was like, that's so disrespectful. Why his name Gordo? I know that's not his God-given name. So why y'all calling him Gordo? Disrespectful. So, you know, Gordo comes over to talk to Drew, and Drew was like, I know you did just come here to talk business, trying to make the move on him. And he was like, I don't mix business with pleasure, which I was like, probably in this situation, you shouldn't. Which I think will make things a little bit worse because, you know, Kane's whole plan was to kind of off them, even though Drew kind of stopped that. I don't know what's going to happen, but I feel like this conflict of interest is going to come into play later in their relationship. But they end up having a conversation. Drew telling them, like, it's something weird that's happening between Kane and Lorenzo. He can't put his finger on it, but it just doesn't feel right. And so he's trying to figure out ways in which he can earn his respect again, because they always say that him being in a relationship, you know, is a distraction, which I just feel they just do that because he's queer. But that's just what I'm saying. I don't know if that's the truth, but it is what it is. So that's just my thought. So we see that later in the episode, they end up saving Kane and Lorenzo, and then Gordo gets shot, and then he helped his little boo thing, and then they kiss. So I was like, yes, I bet not ever see Everett again. But in the midst of all of this, we see Monet got a lot of going on, okay? Actually, let me talk about Tariq, because I actually feel like the whole Monet and Diana it was more happening with Monet this episode than anyone else. So Tariq had me dying when he said, I went from a BMW to a Porsche. And I was like, Beach, first of all, why do you got this flashy ass car in the first place? That doesn't make no sense how a sophomore in college can afford a Porsche, but you always be telling people how broke you are. Haven't make sense for me. But he said, I went from a BMW to a Porsche. I was like, I don't remember this fool having no BMW. And then he was like, black man walking. I was just like, I see what you did there. Okay, that was cute. That was cute. So we see that they're able to deliver the payment to Noma's men. But then they deliver a new package and they want them to move guns, which is another part of Mecca's business. So now they're just like, how the hell are we supposed to move guns? Like, we move drugs, not guns. So now they have to figure all these things out. So now they're all trying to put their heads together and figure out how are they going to get the money for these guns. So I really love the classroom discussion, which always ties into the name of this week's episode, and it's the land of opportunity. I really loved how they kind of gave these questions, like if you came from a 2-parent household, you know, talked about like, do you have a trust? You know, did you have help from your parents? You know, so I love all these different questions because I think sometimes, even though Tariq is a black man and he is always treated or discriminated against as a black man, Tariq has come from a significant level of privilege. And so I like that they actually did this, you know, kind of scenario to really showcase how kind of twofold. You see Effie is all the way in the back of the classroom by the time they're done asking the questions. And, you know, her first thing is, I might be in the back now, but I'm going to be in the front later, so don't you worry about it. But also, too, how even with Tariq's privilege, you see he's kind of on the same playing field as his white students, as his white classmates. We see that, you know, his dad's been arrested, or, you know, the fact that, you know, he might be a first generation college. Like, you just don't know certain things. I like that he also is reminded that as a black man, even though you were born with a life of privilege, there are still barriers that kind of hold you back from the opportunities that you deserve. And we kind of also see that in correlation with RSJ and the media and how they treat him. You know, how he's saying, well, we see you're a perfect example of how people like you can come from nothing. People like me? I was like, what are you talking about? But I love that whole correlation of like this land of opportunity. I really love what they did with that classroom. I honestly feel like they need to integrate that into some classrooms to really help people understand their privilege. And also to the discussion afterwards with the white kids, like, so just because we're privileged of where we came from, that doesn't mean that our success doesn't matter. I was just like, I feel like this could have been a whole episode by itself. I would have really loved to see how that whole conversation ended up playing out. But I like that, you know, we see on the cards, you know, how Tariq talks about family and how Diana talks about independence and how Effie talks about freedom. You know, Effie is only in the drug game so she could set herself up for success going forward after she graduates from college. You know, Diana's trying to move on from her family who always ices her out. So I find it really interesting, these themes. You know, what Tariq does is he's trying to get his family back together. It's always been his family, of getting his mom, his sister, his grandmother, getting everybody back under the same roof. And so I like that we're kind of reminded of what motivates all of our characters in the series. So we see that he ends up having this conversation with Effie, and that's what Effie looks like she wants to tell him, like what happened, but they get interrupted because he's asked to come back to the firm because RSJ is there for a meeting. Whoever put Tariq in that trench coat, though, the little gray multi-tone trench coat, that ish was hard. That was fire. Like I want that coat. That trench was real nice. Okay, I was like, look at this little drip. I was almost mad he had the little tracksuit on under it. But he's called to a meeting to lure RSJ to their firm. And basically, Weston's uncle, like, botches the whole thing. When he compared him, he was like, you're like a black Elon Musk, or, you know, how you've shown people how you could achieve all this on your own. Like, why is it always like this, you're the black version of this person? No, I'm just who my God-given name is, okay? I'm not trying to be compared to Elon Musk. I'm RSJ, so I'm just like RSJ. It's almost like, it felt like he was shocked that a black man could get everything that he has right now. And I was like, sir, if this is how you're kicking this meeting off, you are not getting his business. And just like he said, Tariq was basically like, hey, can you tell him why I'm finna tell y'all no? Can you let him know? So I like how he always challenges Tariq, because he was just like, do you feel like your father would feel the same way? Like, he's trying to get him to see these white people are using you. Okay? And then he ain't gonna talk to me and kind of way and thinking, I'm gonna sit up here and give him my business, because I'm not. So he left. So he asked Tariq, like, what went wrong? And basically Tariq let him know what he did. Then he got mad at him and said, fix it or I'm gonna get rid of your internship. I said, now hold on, wait a minute. How you gonna get mad at me? Because your white ass sit up here and mess up this whole interview, and you gonna get mad at me? And I'm gonna lose my internship because you don't know how to talk to black people, and you felt like, as your token blackie, that I was supposed to tell you how to run this meeting when you kept trying to shush me when I was talking? No, how does that work? So even Brandon was kind of dismissive, like, well, you need to figure out how to get it to work. So I thought it was pretty funny because he ends up going to Rashad because he was like, you got to be some dirt on it, which Tariq, stereotyping, you said he got to have some dirt on him. no, maybe he could just be a good businessman. Like, why does it always have to be there has to be some dark secret of how he got to where he was. So he goes to Rashad, and Rashad was like, no, like, he ain't got no secret, so you probably gonna have to do this good old fashioned way with some hard work. And so he was just like, but if he's pushing you that way, he's challenging you guys that way, that means that he's interested, but he wants you to prove your worth to him. So he ends up telling him, like, hey, you can give me a donation. And he was like, what am I giving you a donation for? I ain't got no money. I said, how you ain't got no money? You just bought this Porsche. But I guess that's a story for a different day. But he was like, okay, well, you ain't got to give me no money. You can go ahead and I can go ahead and call Detective Blanca, which puts it on the radar like she's looking into me. So he tells her, like, unless you're going to give me 5 bands a week in Bitcoin donation, I'm going to go ahead and have a conversation with Detective Rodriguez. This whole time I've been brushing her off for you, but if you don't want to give me no money, then it is what it is, okay? So, of course, he agreed to it, and, you know, he ends up telling him that she's investigating Dante Spears' murder and trying to see the connection with it. So, he was, like, sitting there, bread my N-word, and I was just like, Rashad, I still want Rashad to have his own story. I feel like he was more interesting in previous seasons, and I feel like this season, just like kind of even with Diana's character until this episode, I just felt like they don't know what they want to do with him. And I almost felt like they should have just gave him a spinoff, because I feel like I don't know how he really meshes with the rest of the cast at this point. So we see that Tariq ends up coming up with an idea of offering him a piece of property that belongs to the trust that he's involved with from his dad. And so basically he tells him if he signs with RSJ, then once he honors his requirements of the trust, that he will sign the property over to him. And so this gets RSJ to sign up for it. And basically Tariq has learned to live another day in his internship, okay? So he ends up, this is when he tells Effie about wanting to go to Cali with her. And then he asks, like, hey, what do you need to talk about earlier? And then she's like, oh, I forgot. And then she just put it down on him so he wouldn't think about it. But the most interesting part of this episode really has to deal with the dynamic between Monet and Diana. And even with Kane. I know people were kind of rooting for Kane, but I feel like Kane be his own worst enemy sometimes. So with Monet, Lorenzo and the kids, they had a surprise for her, and they had a mural painted in honor of Zeke. And so while they're looking at the mural, Detective Whitman pops up like, hey, guess what? You thought you got rid of me, but since I'm on suspension, I got even more time to stalk your ass. So he tells her that, like, I know that Mecca was your baby daddy, and I know that you were there the night that he was murdered. So basically saying that he knows she has something to do with this. Now, we know that he thinks that she killed both Mecca and Zeke. So I don't think he's fully, like, there yet, but we find out for some piece of evidence that she gets at the end of the episode, he might be a little bit closer than what we thought. So we see that Diana, she shows up a little bit late, like, hey, I'm sorry. She had, like, some flowers, and she was like, what you want, little girl? She was like, we finna have a family meeting. And then she was like, okay, well, and she was like, you're not a part of the family. Don't you got school to go to? So she's icing her out. I was just like, if I was Diana, like, it was the audacity of Monet to ask Diana to even help her out. I was just like, Diana, you don't see that she be using you all the time? Like, of course you're not going to rat your mama out, but I just feel like Monet be very disrespectful to her, and I don't understand why she wants to keep blaming Zeke's murder on Diana. So she tells, during the family meeting, she ends up telling her she's not happy with the deal that they made with Uncle Frank's kid. She doesn't trust it. She doesn't think that is a good idea. She told him to shut it down, but Kane said hell to the no. So she kind of looked like, I know you ain't, who you think you is telling me no? Then she looking at Lorenzo like, did he just tell me no? And Lorenzo looking like, hey man, this is what we got to do. So this is the whole dynamic that's throwing everybody off. And this is why I don't understand why Lorenzo and Kane think that they have this master plan about how all of a sudden Lorenzo is sitting up here agreeing with Kane's dumb ideas. It just doesn't make sense. So even Diana been side-eyeing it, Drew been side-eyeing it, and now Monet is side-eyeing it. So he ends up shutting it down. She clearly sees that something's going on, and even Drew was like, yeah, they've been moving weird together lately, and it doesn't make sense to me. So she sees that something's up, so of course she gonna be on high alert, for the rest of the time. So Davis ends up telling Monet that he needs her to have Diana tell Whitman that she was with her so she can have an alibi. So Monet wants Davis to send somebody to go break in his house and steal the information that he has on her so they kind of know what angle he's going to be coming from so they can kind of clean all of this up. So he was like, no, I can't do that. And then she gave us some money. He was like, I might know some dudes that know some dudes. I was just like, Davis is so dirty, it's ridiculous. But hey, that's why he get his job done. So we see that after the whole thing that happens, she ends up getting the files and she sees that Lorenzo's fingerprints, ballistic prints, matches something at the crime scene. So now she kind of looking at Lorenzo like, did he have something to do with this murder? Which is what I've been waiting for the entire time. And that's when this actually got very interesting to me. Because now she's going to be on alert and she's going to be like, nah, something ain't right. But we got to talk about Diana because Lorenzo stops by to get the money from her. And then she was like, he hands her more drugs. And she was like, hold on, I thought this was a one-time thing. Like, I'm not going to be doing this every week. I got other stuff to do. And he was just like, oh, so now because you Ivy League, you can't do this? How do you think, you don't think this paid for this Ivy League? And I was just like, now see, y'all can't be doing this to Diana. Actually, both her parents be real disrespectful because don't you want more for your kids? You be telling her no, she can't do stuff. But now that you need her, now you want her to do stuff. And now she's trying to tell you no, she want to be her own person. You don't want to let her do what she want to do. So now he's talking about we all in this together because if we don't pay, no one's going to come after all of us. But I was just like, I would have been like, if we in this all together, then why wasn't I invited to the family meeting? Don't worry, I'll wait. That would have been my response, okay? So Monet shows up and basically gives her this like the wackest apology that has ever existed, and clearly that was enough for her to agree to it. We waste time going back and forth with this Diana and Celine. Like, please let this storyline go because it ain't believable. He's sitting up here kissing on her and stuff, and then she's like, hold on, let's just wait a minute. I was just like, be effing for real. Like, he asked way too many questions about her family. Like, something has to be up with Celine because it just don't make sense. He don't seem like her type. She don't even seem like his type. It's not making sense to me. So he tells her that she should part ways with her family. So then she goes to Whitman. I'm thinking she's gonna do what her mama told her to do. But then she said, nah, ho, I'm done with them, okay? Here's some evidence for money laundering. It's a book that she has in her house. I'll let you know the day that they're not gonna be there. And I was like, wow. She's sitting up here saying Monet is a cancer that needs to be cut. I was like, Diana got some balls on her. I was like, she really finna do this? Like, I know you was over it, but baby, you that over it? You know your mama crazy. So I was like, this can't be true. She had to set him up, okay? And so, of course, we get into the house. She's sitting on a staircase, and then Monet pops up with the gun. And I was like, oh, whew, okay. This is the plan from the beginning. Because I was like, damn, Monet really finna have to kill Lorenzo and kill Diana. Like, this might be a little bit too much. So he sneaks into the house. Diana is calling 911. And then Monet is like, tell that B. Carrie I said what's up. Boom, boom. He on the floor. I was like, that you said, tell that B. Carrie. Diana's sitting up there looking like, B, you said, you really killed Carrie? And I was just like, Diana, you don't know how crazy your mama is. Like, haven't make sense for me how you were even shocked by this whole little interaction. And so then she told her, hurry up and hit me. And then she was like, say less. Ooh, baby, she been waiting her whole life to hit her mama, okay? She gave it a little weak punch. Now, all that aggression that you had up against your mama, baby, I would have laid one so clean. If my mama watching mama, I would never do that to you. I love you, girl. Mama, mama, you know I love you. Okay, I'm sorry. But afterwards, when she hit her and she realized what she did, she's like, Mama, are you okay? I know she wanted to, like, had a little reflex. I'm surprised she had a little pair of reflex. But yeah, so they end up calling the police. And Davis come in like, now, bitch, didn't I tell you not to do all of this? Didn't I tell you not to do all of that? So Diana giving her Academy Award winning performance lying to the police. So now Whitman is dead. And he really brought it on himself. He was really sitting up. I was like, why are you sitting up there trying to, like, negotiate? You talking all that smack. You talking all that smack, Whitman. And now you wanna get her not to shoot you? Like, you knew you had that coming. So yeah, I better be lucky because it took everything in me right now not to start singing the Chicago song. He had it coming. So let's talk about Kane. So Lorenzo's trying to tell him, like, hey man, this don't even make sense. I'm a leader. You really think that people gonna believe that I'm sitting up here listening to your dumb ideas all day, every day, and co-signing them? Like, somebody's gonna have to, like, notice that something is wrong with that. And I was like, exactly. So Brayden ends up meeting Lorenzo because, you know, Gordo has the idea about the gun deal, but the person is racist, of course, and he only deals with white people. So they bring Brayden in. Lorenzo does not seem that impressed. And Brayden was actually pretty terrible because he don't even realize the dudes were taking pictures of him and asking all these questions. They didn't follow him back to the spot where he dropped off the money to Lorenzo and Kane. They end up getting into a shootout because they trying to figure out who the connect is. And so they get into a shootout. They almost get shot. Kane almost definitely got killed, and then Lorenzo kind of protects him. And so that's when Gordo and Drew, they pull up and save the day. Now, they have a good moment, Lorenzo and Drew. He's like, hey, like, you really had my back today. And Lorenzo was like, at the end of the day, you're still my son. Like, and my number one priority is always going to be for the family. And so Kane basically says, okay, like, me knowing about Zeke, like, I'm not going to say nothing. We good. So, and then they took the guns to resell them and make even more money. Now, I think there's going to be a couple of problems. I think Noma's people are going to find out about them selling guns, keeping the guns. So that's a whole thing in itself. Now they got the police on them because Blanca's CI, the person from the shootout, is still alive. So he'll be able, I don't know if he'll be able to ID people, but I don't know what's going to happen. But the biggest thing is what Lorenzo was trying to tell you, like, y'all got everybody on high alert now, because they know that something's not right. And I'm more concerned about how Monet is going to react to Kane actually knowing what happened to Zeke and the fact that he never told her what happened. We know Lorenzo got to get capped before the end of the season, okay? But I'm very interested to see how she's going to handle the whole thing with Kane, because, like, you knew and you didn't say anything. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. But I love that she found out about the fingerprints from Lorenzo that Whitman's did, to see how that affects Jenny and Blanca's case. The fact that Blanca has her own lead, and we still have Lauren as the wild card of when everyone finds out about that. So I'm very excited. I really like this episode. I'm gonna let go last week's episode. It was still entertaining. A lot of plot holes in last week. The writing just didn't even make sense. But this week, I'm very excited how this progresses the story. I'm excited to see where we're gonna go from here. And it's only the 4th episode. Like, I think we're actually moving at a really great pace. So I cannot wait to see what happens in next week's episode. I haven't seen the preview for it yet, but I'm sure it has to be good now that Monet knows this revelation about his fingerprints. So yeah, let me know in the comment section below, what did you think about this week's episode? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What are your predictions for what's going to happen? Who's going to survive this season? Let me know in the comment section below. But those are my thoughts on Power Book 2 Ghost, Season 3, Episode 4, The Land of Opportunity. As always, my name is Sharona from payorwait. And if you like what you saw today, make sure you hit the like button, hit subscribe, share this video with your friends, and make sure you hit that notification bell. And I love you guys 3000. And until I see you again, bye.